So I'll first do a little introduction, just in case we do this, to welcome our listeners to our Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
I'm not peeing right now. I'm pouring water. Sorry. All right, you might want to do that little intro again.
This campaign is called the Blood Peak Pact. Nearly 300 years of unbroken peace have graced the world of Dothysae. Nations enjoy an era of open trade, diplomacy, and relative cooperation. But as the bloodshed and carnage of the last war fade from living memory, unrest begins to simmer. Elven extremists coordinate bombings and assassinations from the sanctuary of a sympathetic city. An orcish warrior is imprisoned for seeking to lead his tribe to forbidden lands reigned over by dragons. And near a cursed point of land in the southern seas, ships are reported missing, their crews lost to a mysterious fate. It is in this moment that our party finds itself in Dothysae, traveling towards Lycilia, that grave news arrives. Vuldeth has closed the Ingvild Pass, its border with Venenir. The Treaty of Encaean has been breached. Will it come to war between man and dwarf again?
So, welcome to the Strange Campaign podcast, as we are calling it right now. Sorry, Rob and Ben, Dylan and I got a podcast brand that we're going with for the title.
I just want it to be known. Maybe we could put this to a vote even.
Yeah.
It came down to Strange Campaign or Strangens and Dragons.
Strange Campaign.
Yeah.
All right, I'll drop it. I won't.
We didn't do a lot of time in the naming realm. We just it's more the content that we're here for. But
all about that content.
So welcome. I am Austin Kenny. I will be playing the character Belwin, who is a turtle. He is a paladin. I haven't picked, technically, because we're only level 1, I haven't picked my oath yet, so I guess I won't really get there. But essentially, Belwin is a turtle who is from a very, very long time ago when nature and humanity and like humanoids and kind of like fae magic creatures all lived in harmony together and such. But then
the Fire Nation attacked.
Exactly. Essentially, pretty much. Humanity and kind of like humanoids kind of were getting greedy, and they just kind of wanted more and more territory. And Belwin is a paladin who was protecting the Earth Mother's temple with his like squadron of turtle paladins. And as he was out there protecting this temple, the last thing he remembered is like the Earth Mother goddess sort of leaving out into battle, out into this war between like humanity and like nature. And he like fell asleep into this deep turtle slumber, and he is woken up in on the Forgotten Isle, which is in the Dothysae area. He wakes up on that island, which sort of used to be this beautiful, like, amazing temple, but it's now sort of a run-down area. He's all alone. He doesn't know what has happened to his turtle people, and you know, the war he fought is kind of long forgotten, and yeah, now he is sort of trying to adjust to civilization and sort of learn what the kind of new world is like. That's it's a little bit about Belwin, the turtle.
What island? Where is that?
It's the Forgotten. It's the Forgotten Isle, Dothysae.
Austin, that's really I really like that. I get cool like Aang Avatar vibes like coming out of the iceberg. I get out of place and out of time, like finding yourself turtle vibes.
Yeah, and so I'm just like this armored up kind of turtly guy. I imagine him to have like his armor is a little like mossy and kind of like has some like flowery stuff growing on him and things like that. And
Very cool.
The deities too that I have picked are Shanti, who is the Earth Mother, and I'm kind of combining them because I just like this idea of, and Sylvanus is the Forest Father. So they're just kind of like these two sort of forest deity that are his paladin people.
And what's your time frame on like how long it's been since he's awoken?
Yeah, so I'm thinking he's like around like 1,000 years old or something like that. Just like the like I said, the war that he's fought is just kind of like mostly forgotten. Like people have civilization is like pretty established, and the war he was fighting was kind of like civilization rising and kind of
Gotcha.
taking
And how but like that's dope. But how long has it been since he's woken up? Like is he like 6 months out from having woken up?
Yeah,
like
I think
a few years out. Or like what's his deal?
I think he's pretty recently woken up. Like he like knows I guess a sort of base amount about the world, but he's not like, we're not going to be like, this is the first city I've ever been to kind of.
Okay, cool, yeah.
I don't want to be like that dumb, but it's still going to be like I've maybe been to like a city or two, a town, but I have not really explored this new world much. I'm just kind of, he's trying to like find out what has happened to his people. He like feels this faint connection to his deities, but like he's not really sure where they are anymore and stuff like that. So yeah, he's just kind of like trying to find his way again.
I've got a bit of an idea how to fit that war you were talking about that kind of was the reason you went into a slumber, into like the lore that we can talk about later, but I want to hear the other characters first before we do like super deep dives into the minutia.
Ben, you want to go for it?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben Tut. I am gonna be playing Cal Stormcurst. So in coming up with my character, Dylan has done a whole lot of world building. It seems like I was really into reading through the documents that are in our Google Drive. So I was trying to like draw a lot of inspiration like from the in-world culture stuff. I've been getting back into Warhammer 40K recently, and my like army that I play in Warhammer are the Space Wolves, which are like a very Viking Nordic inspired army. So I just was very down to make like a Northerner Norse type character. And then in as far as like character traits go, I'm sort of basing it off of this guy named Kaladin from the Stormlight Archive series, which I'm a big fan of right now also. So it's sort of like a hybrid of a bunch of different stuff that I'm into at the moment. So he's a barbarian. He's from Manorhad, and he is his parents are like successful traders, specifically like seafaring traders. So they just kind of like sail around and deliver goods and services and stuff to people. But his dad is kind of like worldly and knows more about the whole world than just Manorhad, and his mom is kind of like a real Manorhad person. She's like super northern and just like a typical northern lass, I guess.
A manor hole, as they're called.
Yeah, right.
Wait. Do you mean, okay? Is she like kind of? Is she like bourgeois or
no, they're not
like a beer drinking?
Yeah,
like,
very much like a kind of like you earn what you work for type, like hardy lot.
Hardened.
Yeah, hardy, very hardy, very doesn't ask for much, kind of.
Right.
Very
But
independent.
so going off of that, my whole thing. So another big thing about the people of Manorhat is they're very superstitious and like distrustful of magic and stuff. So my whole thing is that my character Cal was born during like a huge storm that kind of like crippled the area when it happened. Like it messed up the shipping ports and just caused a bunch of damage. And he was born like at sea when they were coming like back from a trade or something. And so everyone just sort of like associated him with this really bad omen from birth. And he just sort of seems to like have like bad weather and like unlucky occurrences and stuff happen throughout his life and like all around him. And so like the town folk like don't like him. He's just very ostracized, and people like call him storm cursed and don't want him around and everything. And his family is like good to him, but he can even tell that like his dad doesn't really like him because it's like affecting their ability to make money, because people don't want to like trade with them because they think they're like cursed and whatever. So he is just kind of like this like sullen, loner, but he really just wants to find like a squad and be accepted and like prove himself to people and not just be like this bad luck omen that everybody thinks he is. So that's sort of my plan for him. And so his family would like leave him behind to like be to tend their properties and whatever property while they're away at sea, because they don't want to bring him because they don't want to have a storm or something, have bad luck. So he's used to being on his own, but he just wishes that he wasn't. And he's a barbarian, survivalist, and eventually I think it's called Path of the Storm Herald. So eventually by level 3 I should be like causing storms and stuff when I rage and make lightning hit people and stuff.
Do you think you're gonna like maybe try to gamify the idea of like the bad luck in a sense? Like not in a crippling way, not like you're constantly having like a disadvantage or like, but maybe like there's some way to gamify like randomness into like your actions and things. I don't want to do it in a way that's just like only negative. Like I want there to be a sense of like risk or reward with actions and stuff.
Yeah, that could be really cool. I don't know what we that's interesting. That's definitely something to think about and talk about with with you before our like first actual session goes. But I was mostly thinking that his sort of like his bad luck stuff isn't really warranted. Like it's just kind of that like
it's just a superstition.
Yeah, like storms, like when he's around, like it will rain. Like if there's like a big track meet or whatever, like the Northerners have like all the youth go and like compete, and he's all like excited and like really wants to go prove himself.
Like, he got homecoming canceled.
Yeah, so he'll like show up and be like super excited to like do the long jump or whatever, and they'll just be like a lightning storm.
The high school track meet. I love this image of like this northern high school track meet and this like emo boy bring in the storm.
Yeah.
They just don't like him, and they're just like, dude, every time you're around, stuff goes wrong. Why don't you just like not be near us?
Yeah.
It gives me like fat Thor vibes.
Kind of, but I was thinking more, I was trying to go more like, like a scrappy, broody type of, not just like, I am the hammer of the sea.
Sure.
He's got a power that he's grown and been nurtured to not really trust or like.
Yeah, and he doesn't know if it's true or not, and he, he just wants to be part of it.
You're Rudolph, essentially.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's hilarious. So that's my hope, is that like over the course of the thing he will like become more of a Thor type of a guy, but right now he's He's not quite there yet. He's more yeah.
Awesome.
So that's
Yeah.
Cal Stormcursed.
I mean this in a good way. I get like Naruto vibes in a sense, where Naruto, like, he has like a cursed demon in him, and like the town hates him, but he just wants to be like doing good for the town. But you know,
Is that what Naruto's about?
yeah.
Dude,
Like
I also have never watched it actually.
yeah. No, I mean it's kind of similar vibes to what you're saying.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to go for. I'm trying to go for kind of like
Yeah.
a tragic kind of a thing.
Big
So there it
deal.
is. Rob,
All right,
you
Rob.
want to go?
Rob, take us
Yeah,
on.
I'll go. We'll go for it. My character is called Maximon Aetumal, Aetumal. It's
Should
a high elf.
Pick a
last
name that you can pronounce.
but I wanted a good high elf last name. Maximon is his first name, and that's like this Mexican death deity that is like, okay, but I looked into it, and it's a modern one who like chain smokes and drinks, and he wears sunglasses. And my character
That's
wears
sick.
sunglasses. I'll talk about it. Yeah, it's cool. But so Maximon is he's a high elf cleric / student. He's at the Sphidnian Academy of Arcana, which is in the Dothysae city of Zeracaris. Really hate
Nailed
every
it.
word I said, but thank
Nailed
you.
it.
He's studying. I don't know exactly what he's studying. I think it's like medicine and like, I guess magic. A well-respected magic institution. And my character is really here to be a healer, right? And he's working on a thesis on like death and dying and like the rituals of the continent, which for those who don't know, Zeracaris and Dothysae in general are detached from the larger continent of Dothysae. Can I just call it the continent?
You can. That is canon to what elves refer to it as. They
Okay, cool.
like to very condescendingly say the continent.
Yes, that's my character sucks, by the way. Yeah, the continent. He's just like he's like a student who hasn't really left Zeracaris. From my understanding, you're not allowed to leave Zeracaris unless you're on like official duty.
Yeah, so there was an edict put forward by the Dothysae government approximately 15 years ago, restricting travel out of the country to the continent unless you have like express official permission.
Sure. So I'm able to leave because I am like studying like these like dying rituals. I have like a scrying mirror, which is like a real thing. Also known as a black mirror, which is like witches will do ceremonies around it and it will like show them answers. It's like mirror on the wall, like that's a scrying mirror. And I've got like a little pocket watch, and I have to like ask certain permission from the government before I do things, which is my magic 8-ball, which I'm gonna be asking a bunch of questions to. But that's like why I'm allowed to leave, is for my study. I'm on the continent to learn. I have like a good understanding of, I guess, my culture, but I want to learn about these other cultures, and hopefully along the way we can hit up some cemeteries or grave sites or places where I can learn and hopefully learn like new techniques to help, I guess, like people stay alive or help like kind of fend off death. I'm definitely, my character, I looked up like a Victorian goth. I want it to be like, I don't know. He's like kind of aristocratic, but not like an asshole.
I have a bit of a question for you. So you're clearly a character who you're very close to death and also magic. Is there any chance that like your character feels a bit of the pull, in a sense, to borrow from Star Wars, feels a bit of a pull from the quote unquote dark side? Because once you start to get close to death in the magic realm, you start to creep towards things like necromancy, like dark magic, and like into the realm of like demons and other unsavory things that your professors and colleagues at the Svidnia Academy would definitely frown on, if not highly discourage.
Okay, so in terms of like alignment, my character is lawful, neutral. It's like, have you seen Prometheus? Have we all seen that movie?
Dude, like I watched Alien last night for the first time.
Oh, tight. Yeah, this is sweet. So I guess you haven't seen Prometheus.
I have seen Prometheus, actually.
Oh, okay, but you watched Alien. Oh, okay.
Right, yeah. Well, much better.
Yeah, David, like the Michael Fassbender robot, who like he poisons like one of the characters with like the oil just to kind of like see what happens. And I think it's truly out of curiosity, but it's like an evil and like chaotic act. And I think my character is like lawful in the sense that he just wants to learn. And if he learns and it like leads somewhere dark, that's fine. It's just like the knowledge. It's this ultimate pursuit. I honestly don't have intentions to go fully dark, but that's possible.
This doesn't sound like he's the most like people person type guy.
No,
if he would give us poison for curiosity or whatever.
Sure. Like he's interested in both your characters because they both have information that he doesn't know, and he sees in them like an opportunity to like continue moving forward. He cares about.
Sounds like a total Rick to me.
Yeah, he's still Rick too. Yeah, he like heals you because he knows that he needs you to be alive so that he can continue.
I'm getting a sort of like a slight sociopathy that I feel your character is on a bit of a seesaw, where I can see you being lured by darkness, and I can also see you being like sort of convinced by like the bonds of your party, and like, you know, you have a very bipolar sort of like a little bit motivation.
Yeah. It's also cool because it's sort of like, if we're looking at like traditional fantasy tropes or whatever, or even traditional Dungeons and Dragons tropes, it kind of leans into some of the more like negative aspects of the high elves, where like they're kind of aloof and like superior, but not necessarily in like a mean spirited way. It's just like they don't really empathize with other people quite as much because they're just kind of like feel themselves to be like above it in a way, you know?
Yeah.
That just seems kind of like that all kind of makes sense. Like he's more interested, like people are like kind of like specimens to him in a way.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I kind of knew that about high elves. I played a high elf before, I think.
Nice.
I think Rob might actually be a high elf in real life.
Oh, really quickly, and we're talking about like necromancy, like dark shit. I will say, like, one of my cantrips is I like summon a skeleton hand, and it like touches people with death.
That's pretty cool.
It's fucking tight.
I guess without further ado, the only other character to be introduced would be me as your dungeon master. My name's Dylan Bennett. If you're coming here from Strange Conversations, you'll recognize my voice as well as Austin's. But I will be, basically, for those unfamiliar with Dungeons and Dragons, I will kind of be the architect of the story and the world, and I'll be playing all the characters that our party interacts with. So
everyone that's not us in the world.
Yeah. So you'll be hearing a lot of funny accents from me, maybe some that don't come off as gracefully as others, but I'm going to do my best to lay out a convincing and engrossing world. So that might involve some funny accents and slightly strange characters. But bear with me, because this is my first time DMing, and I'm very excited to do it because it's a world that I, like we've said, have put maybe a ridiculous and slightly alarming amount of effort into, but it's been a lot of fun to create, and I cannot wait for these characters to completely ruin my plans.
So Dylan mentioned it's his first time DMing. Ben and I actually used to play in high school together, so we are fairly experienced players. Have both dabbled in DMing a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, Ben and Rob. I mean, Ben, I kind of gave a little preface to your D&D experience, but I don't know if you guys wanted to talk a bit about your love or what
You know
your
what?
feelings are with D&D.
Austin and I went to high school together, and it wasn't until sort of later in high school, maybe end of junior year, maybe even senior year, that our friend group started playing D&D. But it was really great for me because I was one of those kids that would buy the monster manuals and stuff and the player's handbooks from Barnes and Nobles when I had no one to play D&D with, and I just like read about the like monsters and stuff. So it's one of those things, like I just am a big fan of fantasy and world building and all this kind of stuff. And I would say I have I have a passion for all that kind of stuff far more than I have a passion for like role playing necessarily. So I guess what I sort of tend towards in the way I play D&D is more like I'm playing a video game, and like I like doing character stuff, but I don't particularly care if I am like embodying that character myself as much as like watching my character do his thing. So I guess yeah, I think that's all I have to say about my experience or tendencies when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons.
I think I might come from the exact opposite from that kid who reads the monster manual. I don't like fantasy like at all. I don't think there's like any like fantasy things I've ever really enjoyed. I play Dungeons and Dragons because Austin is a good friend, and he's like, "You should play," and I'm like, okay. And we played together, and I just wanted to be chaotic evil. So I take joy in that. I'm not being chaotic evil now. I'm being lawful. I honestly, I like the like outside elements. I guess like the meta thing of using the 8-ball for the character. I was gonna play one where I would have like a tarot deck that I could use. I might even kind of use that to like see how I feel about my character. I'm like kind of detached from it. I just like
Man,
it sounds fun. Like the kind of conversation and like a group coming together. But like I know I have like really basic understandings of like orcs and elves, and I hate them both. I like the movie Bright. I thought Bright was really cool.
This is a Bright-based campampign, actually. I really mentioned that.
Okay. Yeah. That being said, like I love the idea of like the D&D ones that are like Cthulhu or like the X-Files, because I like spooky stuff, but not.
I'm gonna try to
fantasy.
sprinkle in a healthy dose of spooky and some otherworldly weird stuff. I want to try to make sure, like, when I was creating this world, I was trying to make sure that there was like a place and a kind of culture and a sort of almost trope in every geographic location that can help players of all different dispositions and levels of interest in different things. So it's a very large world with a lot going on, but I hope that like it has a bit of everything for everyone.
Cool. I will say like I am curious about fantasy things. They like don't do it for me, but like Ben mentioned like Warhammer, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like to. I was like looking up the images. I'm like, this is cool. Like, if I'd like to hear Ben explain it to me.
That's
a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole.
You don't even get him started.
This isn't the time or place, but no, you really should have, and I can't even tell you how much joy it just gave me to hear you say that. Let's just say we will. Anytime you want to just have a call, like listening to you talk about that is hilarious.
This is a land that is really organized around these nations that are, for the most part, organized around racial geographies. And so we have the most prominent, largest, and most dominant power in this world is the nation of Venenir, which is a very stereotypical fantasy human kingdom. So if you think a very ambitious, a very power-hungry and greedy kingdom that is defined by a powerful monarch, a economic system that creates very few wealthy lords and lots of have-nots who sort of do whatever they can to scrape by. That is Venenir. It is a kingdom that encompasses basically the entire eastern portion of our continent and is defined by its dominance of trade and its dominance in war, simply by how large its population is. Directly connected to Venenir, and probably the second most important nation, geopolitically speaking, in the world, is the dwarven kingdom of Vuldeth. Vuldeth is a very, very old nation, very much so older than Venenir, but is a nation that is defined by the dwarves' adherence to technology, to resources, to mining and smithing, to engineering, and to a dominance in craft and machine building. The dwarves are not a very religious people historically, but they have great faith in their ability to make things and their ability to shape the world around them. And in that way, though a much smaller nation, it gave them a great advantage in the early eras of our continent and made them a very worthy foe to Venenir in their rise to power. A very, very long and costly war was fought between Vuldeth and Venenir about 300 years ago, which only ended when a massive volcano dominating the center part of our world erupted, bringing fire, ash, and death onto Vuldeth, destroying 2 cities and putting the kingdom in a state of crisis that forced them to have to surrender to Venenir. There are great reparations that were paid to Venenir. There were many different trade agreements and arrangements that were made that put Vuldeth at a great economic disadvantage. And Vuldeth has been basically crippled ever since that war. That war also had another very interesting implication for Venenir, however, though it did create a geopolitical system where they rose quickly to the top of the pile. It also created a great secessionist movement in their northern cities, which resulted in a large amount of humans seceding from Venenir and forming the human kingdom of Manorhad, which dominates the northern realm closest to the Arctic regions of our map. Manorhad is a country that turns its nose up at magic, unlike Venenir, and unlike Venenir, is built upon a confederacy of independent city-states that each govern themselves and also contribute to a councilary that meets and creates rules that it feels are best for the entire region without hampering on the individuality of each city-state. And so Manorhad people are hardy, they're independent, they're skeptical of magic, and they are highly, highly disdainful of Venenir and the ambitions of that nation. If we move just to our south, a nation that has a very old history, but one that is kind of looked upon as the least significant nation, solely because of their lack of worldly ambition, we arrive at the orcish world of Ket. Ket is a land that is dominated by large plains, marshy wetlands, and at its northernmost point, a large forest and a mountain range. Ket is the traditional tribal lands of the orcs and has been preserved under their tribal leadership due to the orcs' ability at defending their homeland and their martial prowess. So the orc cities are basically large tent cities that have been permanently established from years and years of nomadic life. Some orcs do practice the nomadic lifestyle, but many have settled into these larger tent cities. And the orcs have a very martial religious order that is central to the way that they live their life and approach their craft. Orcs have maintained their independence through a lifestyle that they use to become mercenaries in their early years. Once they reach late adolescence and in their young adulthood, they essentially do service work in mercenary groups and militias for hire all around the kingdoms. So rich nobles hire them as bodyguards. They're hired as, strike breakers by corporations. They're hired as fighters for small factional wars, and they're hired as adventurers for hire and muscle for clearing out wildlife or monsters or beasts or what have you. Then we come to the two realms of the elves. To our immediate southwest, in the bottom corner of our map, we have an island nation known as Dothysae, which is the ancestral homeland of all elf and fae kind, and is very much a land dominated by the use and mastery of magic. The elves' use of magic has allowed them to create amazingly majestic cities, has allowed them to create the foremost academy in the world, and has put them in a position where they are very much skeptical, suspicious, and pretentious of all other races of the continent, as they refer to it. They are very isolationist. They prefer to not spend too much time amongst orcs, humans, and dwarves, and they prefer the comforts of their own ways, as they view their magical traditions as the only real thing worth studying or preserving. But not all elves have thought this way throughout history. Some elf and fae kind in ancient times decided that they wished to live and learn amongst the different races of the continent. And so they left Dothysae and founded the small democratic nation of Dothysae, which is both the most diverse nation on the continent, but also in some ways the most hectic and least productive. Because it's a democracy and because it is ruled by a council of representatives, decision-making and policy-making take much, much longer than they do in these more authoritarian monarchies and the oligarchy of the elves. And because of this, Dothysae is very much so looked down upon by all other nations. They are viewed as an experiment that is not producing good results. And many people, including the humans, the dwarves, and the elven nations, view that because of the massive differences in races that live on Dothysae and the different interests represented, Dothysae is a land that is bound to be taken over or broken up into different pieces with time. And that surveys all of our nation states within this land. There is a northern realm that is unexplored and unconquered, known as Iscarda. There is a dragon realm that is also unexplored, that is just off to our west, that is known as Dothysae. The dragons are even more isolationist than the elves. They don't even want themselves to be seen by other races, nor do they ever leave their realm, and no ship that has ever attempted to explore Dothysae has ever returned because of the dragons' fierce guardianship of their lands. And finally, there is the mysterious, diseased, and deadly realm of Dothysae, which is at our southeasternmost tip of our world. Dothysae is a realm that is very, very frequently attempted to be explored, but very infrequently those adventurers return from. It is a jungle that is defined by its diseases, its deadly predators, its mystery and intrigue, and its dense and unending expanse of greenness and tangled growth. There is one settlement on this cursed point of land known as Argus, which is a lawless city run by hungry and greedy corporations, by trade corporations, which is essentially a city of traders, pirates, strongmen, and trade companies that use their fortune to rule over anyone unfortunate enough to find themselves in Argus. There are unspeakable evils said to reside in Dothysae, and many explorers have rumored tales of a broken and cragged point that they say all sailors should avoid, as well as a massive structure somewhere deep in the forests of an ancient city that no one has ever entered and no one has ever seen anyone leave from.
Cool. I just wanted to say, Dylan, incredible stuff, man. I'm so excited, and it's clear you've put so much thought into this. And I totally feel the Game of Thrones stuff, like very cool, thought out nations. I'm very impressed, and just want to give you some props before we
This map too, we'll definitely have to post it somewhere because it's crazy. Like
it's incredible. It's incredible.
It was honestly the first thing I made, and then I kind of made the lore.
Wait! You made the map? There's like a.
Yeah, there's a really easy and really cool program called Incarnate that is like a really cool and easy way to make fantasy maps.
Oh, okay. I thought this was like. Wait, you made all this up?
Yeah, he made this.
Dude, this sucks. You're a nerd, dude. Oh wow. Oh my god. Wow. Like respect. I guess. This sucks, dude. This is insane.
So what city did you say we were starting in again? Sorry.
So we are going to be starting in the country of Dothysae, just sort of south along that road, heading into Lycilia.
Where are we kind of starting, I guess, in this town? Did you have any more beyond that?
I figured you would be starting just south of it, a little bit in the woods, because starting you off in a town right away, I thought there'd be a better way to introduce both Rob to some of the elements of just straight up how to play if we started in a more remote area. But I definitely wanted that first session to be from a remote area into a town, so that you could get a sense of both wilderness play and also more settlement play.
So I guess what I'd say is, my question is, are our characters going to be already together when we begin, or are we going to like encounter each other? Are we supposed to have already known each other?
That's honestly something that I haven't put a ton of thought into just yet. I was kind of organizing like session 1 around y'all already being in a party, but it could be that y'all like just met, and that could be stuff that gets filled in session 1. But I feel like it might be tough playing the 3 of you separately into like.
No, of course. I think honestly, I think that's perfect, because when you role play the party first meeting each other, it's a little awkward in like the way you introduce. You know what I mean? In my experience, the ideal start point is like you assume that all the characters have like just recently met, so they have like a basic idea of each other, but they don't like know the juice yet, you know?
So, I kind of wanted to maybe figure out with you as well, Dylan, but my compatriots, maybe how we all met up, I guess, and how we're kind of acquainted.
I was thinking story-wise, what kind of makes sense in terms of our cast of characters is that potentially Rob just left Sudisfae, maybe landed in the Eodisfae capital of Faein on the western end of Eodisfae. I was also thinking that maybe Ben's character Cal potentially just landed there as well from a boat. Maybe he felt he had to leave Manorhad for some reason. Maybe he was being particularly ostracized, or thought maybe a worldly, wandering the world would help him find himself. And I was thinking maybe there's a reason why Belwin was heading to Faein, and why you find yourselves maybe heading back in this direction is that Belwin might have ventured there because Belwin was trying to maybe head towards land that he recognized from his time. Sudisfae would have been around still. It would have been a established nation. So maybe that if he headed to Sudisfae, he'd get answers. But at the same time that he was heading to Faein to leave to go to Sudisfae, he met our other two party members. Rob's character, I'm thinking that Maximon might have wanted to head actually to Vuldeth, to Cag's Rest, which is the ancient tomb and burial ground of all Cags. In the Dwarven world, they refer to their king as a Cag, and essentially it's like a Khan. So the Dwarven monarchy are all descendants of the first unifying tribal leader, which was Cag. And so all Dwarven kings call themselves Cags, and their last name is Cag. And so Cag's Rest is where all the Dwarven kings are buried. And I'm thinking that that's where Maximon wanted to go, but he met this turtle that he realized is, something from ancient history. Like, no one has seen turtles for the longest time. No one knows much about turtles. And this turtle told him that he comes from this place called the Forgotten Isle, that is a ruin, that is remnant of an ancient civilization. And I'm thinking that Maximon was like, fuck Cag's Rest. We got to go to the Forgotten Isle. I got to learn more about, your turtle people. And I'm trying to figure out how Cal falls into that, because I think
something I was kind of thinking with Cal is at least with Belwin and his sort of one of his sort of ideals, being a paladin is like preserving sort of this light of nature that is within people, and maybe he like sees Cal as like this downtrodden soul, and maybe just wants to like help him out.
You know what? You know what we could do? You know what we could do, Austin, is like maybe my my Tempest Heraldness, whatever, is sort of like an authentic piece of like your nature god or whatever. So you like I could be one of the like few things that you've like come across that like is legit connected to like your like ancient thing.
There's some scent on you that I like. Yeah.
Yes, that would make sense. Like you're like, oh yeah. Like you could be like, oh yeah, cool. Like here's proof that like the nature stuff is still around because like you've got it in you. And then I could just be like psyched that you like me.
Yeah.
And want to like send me away. Yeah. And then Rob could just be like following you around like, wait. Like what is your species?
Yeah.
This makes a cool sort of like a weird learning, like everybody's trying to learn something off of each other. Like I think that'll be good because it'll make for questions between you about each other, so that tidbits about your character and about your past come out more naturally than just like, oh, what's your whole story? Like,
Right. Right.
That way, like, you're constantly kind of like trying to get information from each other, and you're sort of like each trying to learn something from one another. Like, oh, where did you first like come in contact with this storm deity? Like,
Right.
I didn't know, like, I haven't sensed this in such a long time. Or like, where are your people? Like, why are there no other turtles? Like, what like sort of things are going on? You all have these different things that you can like be trying to learn from one another.
Sure.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
makes
I'm
that's
into it.
great. I think that's another part of like just getting a D&D group rolling is like sometimes it's hard to find a reason for the characters to want to be around each other and want to be working towards a common goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
sounds like that would make sense for, Rob's doing his thesis. I'm just psyched to not be rejected.
Well, one of the things is
Yeah.
that Belwin is trying to take Maximon to the Forgotten Isle to sort of give him a tour, essentially. Like, I'll help you.
A
You're student.
tortoise.
Yeah, exactly. And he could be taking Cal to the Forgotten Isle because he's kind of like, maybe you'll feel some sort of connection there. Like,
yeah, maybe there's some
clearly-
answers
yeah.
here for you.
Belwin is the glue. So I guess my only other questions would be the area that we are meeting in, that's in the sort of like democracy, inefficient, like try to make the new world zone, right? Is that
Exactly.
correct?
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
it's a very progressive nation, but at the same time,
Right.
it has all the pros and cons of a
Of
democracy.
a progress, right? This,
Yeah.
yeah. Like,
And so
we are all very aware of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a nation where people are both very optimistic, but there are also factions that are working to take that away.
Well, I'm very excited, guys. I think I like everyone's characters. I love the world. I want to go and find out so much stuff, man.
Woohoo. So much to explore, so much to find out
I
in the
know.
upcoming episodes of Strange
So
Campaign.
I put some pictures. Sorry, Austin. I just interrupted your great little wrap up.
Oh no, it's okay. I think that's a good we on this little outro we can maybe even say that we'll make a place where we can post all these images, maybe like all of our inspiration, these
Yeah.
maps, kind of give our listeners a little visual of what we're kind of imagining here for our little campaign. So we will start next episode just outside Lycilia, where we have the intent of going to the Forgotten Isle, and I think that'll be a good place to start. I think maybe to wrap things up, one thing, Ben and Rob, have you guys thought of character voices at all? A little bit.
Oh yeah. I have been thinking about this a lot. He sounds exactly like me. But he does it. He's got no vocal fry, and he's cool. It's like actually less cool me.
I feel like Austin's the only one who actually designed a character that might require some like vocal work, because I can't imagine a turtle sounding like a human man. But
Yeah, I don't know
a
if
human and an elf could
I
sound.
haven't decided if I'm going in the direction of like an old like gruff voice, or even I was also thinking like I could go to like the soft like Winnie the Pooh kind of voice.
I also really like the idea of like speak softly and smash a dude's head with a huge hammer.
Yeah, dude. You know what, Austin? It's kind of like Goose vibes a little bit from Saga.
Oh yeah. No, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Very much so.
Kind of like the Winnie the Pooh kind of
Like,
Yeah, I like that idea.
hello, my name is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somewhere up
something.
somewhere up here, kind of. In a
Yeah.
I don't know.
Turtle. I'm a turtle.
I'm a turtle man.
I'm a turtle. What's that from?
Hey.
I'm not turtly enough for the Turtle Club. It's from that terrible,
yeah,
terrible
that
movie.
That scene was filmed on 9/11.
Are you serious? What?
Yes.
Yes.
That's such
Yes.
a Rob fact. Wait,
Look it
after or before they did the Turtle Club thing?
Okay, that's the thing I don't understand. Honestly, I think about this a lot. I thought about this a lot. Like I was thinking about this yesterday, because I'm assuming it was filmed not in New York City, It was filmed in LA, but that would have been so early in LA. But I know that they had a moment of silence on set, so I don't know. I don't know. But it was filmed during the Turtle Club day. Yeah.
That is an amazing fact, and I don't know if I'm glad to know it.
Yeah, you should be. The turtle. Nice. So I'll be thinking about 9/11 now.